about to go live. All right, y'all. It's Friday night. It's me, the indie comic book guy, and y'all know I normally don't do live streams, but I've been dealing with a lot of mental depression, a lot of mental anguish. But it's okay. I promised each and every one of you, my chat nerds, that I was going to continue to provide content no matter what. So I do apologize for the brief 2 week mental staycation, so to speak. Tonight, I just want to talk. When you're dealing with any kind of mental trauma, PTSD, whatever you want to call it, whatever it is, it's a very real thing to you. It's a very real thing to your reality. So sometimes basic things like just getting out of bed is hard for you, or just getting off the couch to shower, to eat food. All of these things are very hard for you to do when you're dealing with something that affects you on a psychological and a physical level. But I didn't want to talk about that tonight. I didn't want to talk about that tonight. I just wanted to let y'all know where my headspace is because I do want to create more content for you. I do want to be that source where you can find out how to make a comic book or find out comic book news or just chit chat. Because, again, I appreciate everyone that's subscribed to this channel. Or even if you don't subscribe, you just watch some of the videos occasionally. And, you might comment in the comment section or just give it a thumbs up. I do appreciate each and every one of you. Now, I want to talk about a couple of things tonight, but first I want to talk about this whole gatekeeping thing. Comics by Perch, he recently released a video saying gatekeeping isn't real. I'm sorry. I would be working for all of the major comic book companies if gatekeeping wasn't real. So Tristan over at Nerdette's Newsstand, she made a response, reaction video, whatever you want to call it, saying gatekeeping is very real. It's very real. And she gave a number of reasons why gatekeeping is real, including the fact that, hey, prices of comics have gone up. That's a form of gatekeeping. That what I kind of felt she was really stretching a lot with that because she's saying people are pricing out the comics, so people are just pirating the comics. But it's already been proven years ago that bootlegging comics doesn't affect comic book sales the way a lot of people thought it would. Because the people that are bootlegging comics, they had never had an interest in buying the physical book anyway. They had zero interest. Then she talked about people's politics and this and that. Um, she made a weird comment. She said that the Static Shock cartoon was racist. I've never heard anyone make this reference to the Static Shock cartoon being racist or to anyone. So if you know anything about that, please let me know. I would like for someone to point out these racist things about Static Shock. Like, I love that cartoon. I grew up with it. Like, if it was racist towards anyone, let me know. Let me know. We'll talk about it right here. I also want to talk about, and I may do a video regarding Dwayne McDuffie and if this new milestone returns has tarnished his legacy in the sense that they're fucking up a lot of his characters. Looking at you, Vida Iola, whatever the hell her name is. Like, how's she gonna do this to Static? Like, I don't like this emo Static Shock. It's just not Static. Just saying. But on the topic of gatekeeping, that's why we're here, right? We're talking about gatekeeping. I have a new mic, so if y'all can hear me, yay. Because I know last week I tried to do a live stream. Was it last week, the week before? I don't know. Somewhere before I had my mental breakdown and just shut myself off from society because my clinical depression had reached a level 10. Like, it was over 9,000. And when you're a creative, and most creators are empaths to a certain degree, We absorb everything, everyone's energy, positive, negative, all of that. And we're dealing with our own shit in the process. So when that happens and you're dealing with depression, everything just stops. Everything stops. So there were a few days where I didn't go to work. I barely ate. I'm like, did I shower? And it's sad to say, but that's how depression works, where you know the things you need to do. It's just you can't mentally and physically bring yourself to do those things. Now, again, comments by Perch. He's like, gatekeeping isn't a real thing. Nerdist Newsstand. She, besides her weird comment about the Static Shock cartoon, she did have a couple good points about gatekeeping, but her comment about the price of comics being a factor in gatekeeping and forcing people to freaking bootleg the comics, I can't get with that. I can't get with that. Now, big difference between myself, Perch, Nerdette's Newsstand, and a lot of these other podcasters and YouTubers. I fucking create comic books. They're on the sidelines. They may do their research, or they just may watch somebody else's video and just go with that narrative. Well, so-and-so said this about gatekeeping, so it must be true. And they go with that narrative and just regurgitate that information. These are not actual comic book creators. It's different when you're in the trenches trying to create a comic book, get it out to market, and establish that IP. If you're not a freaking comic book creator, stay out of the conversation because you know not what you speak. No disrespect to Perch, no disrespect to Tristan, but they're outsiders looking in. So they have secondhand information. That's all I'm saying. The comments are based off secondhand information that they heard from other sources, or even they might have talked to other actual creators and got this information. Either way it go, it's secondhand information. I'm old. I'm an ancient alien. I'm an ancient alien. I grew up in the 80s and 90s where you go to a comic book convention, you show your portfolio, and you hope that person at Marvel or DC or wherever, Dark Horse, said your work was good enough. Here's my business card. Send me some more samples. Or, you know what? You're the next fucking Jim Lee. And everybody wants to be the next fucking Jim Lee at one time or another. Rod Liefeld, Eric Larson, whoever the hell. Adam Kubert was actually, I love his work. Adam and Andy Kubert more than Jim Lee. That was just me because they were great storytellers. They still are. Learned it from their daddy. But I come from that age where editorial reviews were a thing. Marvel used to have assistant editors month. Beware, they're gonna go crazy and mess up this issue. How dare they? But I come from that age where there was an industry. There was an industry standard. There was an industry standard to this shit. There was an industry standard to all of this. Whether you're a writer, letterer, colorist, artist, there was a thing called industry standards. DC Comics for the longest time had a house style where you had to draw in a certain style. They wanted their books to look identical style-wise. They got away from that in the 2000s, but that was a real thing with a lot of DC books. Marvel, you had to be the best of the best because no one ever was to write or draw for Marvel. In recent years, price of comics have gone up. They're like, you know what? The profit margins are getting thin. We're going to go overseas and get these people who you can't pronounce their name. You don't know who this person is drawing this book. You're like, Salav, Dali, whoever, Jimanan, whoever the hell they are. You don't know these people. They don't even know these people. But that's the reality of Marvel Comics in 2022 is they have learned to farm out their content in their books to foreign artists to drive down that price. They can get a writer cheap, but they have done the whole forming out of the art for a lot of their books. From a business, from a business standpoint, I get it. I get it. It's cheaper. Increase your profit margin, especially when a lot of these books they just want to keep around just to maintain the IP. I get it. Back to gatekeeping, right? Back to gatekeeping. I know many of you watching this, you may find this very shocking. Very shocking. I'm gonna tell you something very shocking. I am black. I know, shocking. Take a minute. Shocking news. I bring this up for the simple fact that not too many years ago, there were articles written about Marvel editorial and how they barely hired any people of color in their offices. Same with DC. That much hasn't changed. Hell, Vita Iola, she went on a whole Twitter rant about, hey, if you're queer, if you're gay, if you're trans or whatever, you should apply to be a Marvel editor or assistant editor, blah, 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 blah. Me personally, I don't give a frig about who is sleeping with who. I don't really care about race, but I do understand that race is a factor in some circumstances. Ask any black creator that you know who has been to a comic book convention with their book, their character, their comic book can feature a non-black character, but just them being present there, there are certain people that will not approach that table. They will not approach that table. Racism is still alive and well in the nerd and the geek communities. Still alive and well. Still alive and well. I said it on a video about Spawn. It's a reason why Todd doesn't showcase that Spawn's an African American character. It's a reason why, despite Spawn's power, and I know my chat nerds, y'all have educated me on Spawn 101, but he still has the power to make himself look like any person he wants. He still has that ability. He still has that power. That's all I'm saying. But I bring all this up for a simple point. Oh, being a person of color and gatekeeping, you experience this in a variety of ways. A variety of ways. Now, if I get on my little typewriter and I'm like, I'm going to write the best Spider-Man script in the world, it's going to be epic. My Spider-Man story makes Peter Parker a school teacher again because it was a good fit. I will build my supporting cast around his teachers and admins at the school. His adventures will be dictated not based off the villain of the week, but personal problems in his life and the life of his staff, because little did he know the principal is a super villain. This is the greatest Spider-Man story ever. Okay, I wrote that. Sent it in. Now, I'm not going to write, I am a male, I am a black male on the submission. No, that's dumb. Who would do that? So, when you blindly, well, you got to get an agent these days, but when you submit something, no one knows what race you are, ethnicity, unless they go look you up on social media. Again, I grew up in the 80s and 90s. I had no clue how half these people looked unless I saw them at a convention or read a Wizard magazine and saw, like, oh, okay. It didn't matter to me. It did not matter to me. What race, what gender, what sexuality, I don't care. I'm not sleeping with any of these people. Doesn't matter to me. So, I guess we'll get perch 1 point. If we're looking at sending out submissions and people not knowing who you are, unless they look you up on social media or you have a name that's very ethnic, then they might be like, yo. And quick story. I used to work at a 7-Eleven. It was in a largely Hispanic neighborhood. My manager, she was white. She did not like Hispanic people. She called him every racist term you can think of. Any Hispanic person that applied, or she looked at the application without seeing them, it looked like Jennifer Lopez, Jesus Martinez, Felipe Reyes. She just automatically threw those resumes away. Meanwhile, Felipe could be a white man. We don't know. She just looked at the name and stereotyped him based off that name. That is gatekeeping. That is gatekeeping. So, point to Tristan, because gatekeeping is a real thing in the sense that some people will stereotype you and pigeonhole you based off your name. She didn't point out that. I'm pointing that out. But I'll give the point to her. So Perch got a point. She got a point. Because that's a real thing that happens in every company in the world. The world. It happens. Shout out to y'all in the chat. My chat nerds are showing up. Respect. What did I say? Namaste? Namaste? Whatever. But that's a real world thing that happens. If you did not get a job, maybe because of your name. They're like, you know what? Lakeisha Jackson sounds like a black girl. We're not going to hire her. Meanwhile, she's an Asian lady. People do this all the time. It's crazy. So, is it unrealistic to say it doesn't happen in comic books when you submit something over in the comic book industry? Oh, it's totally realistic. It happens. And now with social media, they can go and look you up and find your socials and like, you know what? No. There's a reason why there's never been a black man as a series writer of the X-Men ever. Excuse me. Ever. It's never happened. And they borrowed the X-Men from the Civil Rights Movement. I think it's only fair. Give creators equal time to write these franchise characters. It's happened a little bit. There has been some progression. But gatekeeping, in the sense that people look at your name, they look at your gender, ethnicity, and so forth, it is a real thing. Have y'all noticed I close my eyes a lot on these videos? I guess the lights and the camera, I'm just not used to looking at them. And I made over 100 videos. So I don't know if anybody noticed. I close my eyes on a lot of these videos. It's crazy. Now, let's talk about the political aspect of this shit. That's blinding. There we go. Politically speaking, it's funny when people say that they do not want politics in comics, but even the Wild West stories, the war stories, that were a big part of comic books. If you study the history of comic books, all that shit was political. All that shit was political. You can't write a Captain America story without it being political. You can't write an X-Men story without it being political. And you can't make comments about race swapping and gender swapping without that being a political comment. The very nature of those comments makes your statement a political statement. Why? Because in the real world, even though I know people were talking about funny books, these things affect people on a political level, on a social level. So it tickles me when I hear people say, I don't like politics in comics, and they give you the reasons why. I asked people a few weeks ago, like, what made you fall in love with comics? And it was one of those happy thoughts that made people think, like, why did I start reading comic books? What made me stick with this medium even into my adult life? What made me want to share comics with my kids or grandkids? Those happy thoughts. For me, it was reading those old Conan books, the old black and white Conan books. I love those. DC used to have a book called Warlord, which was like this fantasy book. I love that. but I would just collect comics sporadically. It wasn't until New Warriors #1, I got at like a stop and go or whatever, that it made me think and realize, you know what, I love these. And then I found the comic book store, and I was in there every week. Me and my friend Eric and Chris, we used to walk the train tracks to our local Lone Star Comics, and see, close again. And I started getting all kinds of comic books. I just fell in love. And, of course, kids was like, oh, I'm going to create my own superhero team. I'm going to create my own, version of Batman. And I still see people do that today. It excites me that people still get excited about comic books. So when I look at this, and I've been having this conversation with people about the responsibility of nerd and geek podcasters and YouTubers. What is our responsibility to the fans, to the culture? Because you watch a lot of these channels, Yellow Flash, Clownfish, Comics Matter with your boy Zach, Just Some Guy, whatever the channel is, you hear so much negativity. Even myself, I call shit trash every day. Like, that's trash. That's trash. I admit it. But if everything is trash, why the hell are we still buying this? If we hate everything, why are we buying anything? Why are we putting our money behind gas? Is what, $4 or $5 these days? And people are still buying fucking comic books? Comic books that they hate? Why put that kind of financial investment into something that you hate? So I announced a few episodes ago, actually it was a few months ago, that I'm going to hold myself accountable for that balance. I can't hold these other channels accountable. They have to do it themselves, because we have to remind ourselves of why we love this industry. Why do we love it? Why do we create comics? Why do we read comics? If we cannot answer that question, go fucking Netflix and chill with a turtle, as far as I'm fucking concerned. Go Netflix and chill with your mama. I don't care. But as influencers, no matter if we're big, small, whatever the case, we have a responsibility to comic book fans, to fans of these characters, to past creators and current creators, to use our platforms in a responsible manner. We do. We have that responsibility. I love, if I do a Kickstarter campaign, I get a little personalized note. Luke Stone wrote this. There are people, when he was like, yo, I'm rocking with Comicsgate now, they stopped buying his books. They didn't want to support his campaign. Well, he hasn't launched one since, his health recovery and everything. But there are people that are in the whole Whisper network saying that they won't support it. That's their loss. He's a good creator. He's a great artist, great storyteller. That's their loss. I don't care if you're an SJW or a Comicsgate or whatever the hell you want to call yourself. I just want a good comic book. I will say this over and over again. Look, that's a lookbook. Travis Gibb did this one. I did a review broken down. It wasn't a personal favorite. It needed work. There was a lot of plot holes. It's whatever. Let's see. Luke. Demoness. Our friend Luis Torres, he makes this book. He gets like $17,000 to $20,000 each time he runs a campaign. And of course, it's one of those TNA books, and TNA books clean up. I made a post on Facebook not too long ago about TNA books, and some people got triggered. I'm not gonna lie, but it is what it is. It has its market. These types of books they're not my thing. They're not my thing. Like, I have Pornhub. I don't need a comic book. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I'm gonna break out the lotion, I need some movement. Just saying. What's this? Back to gatekeeping. Purge is fucking wrong. And this happens a lot when you're on the outside looking in because he's never made a comic book. Young Ripper has yet to make a comic book. Tristan, Nerdist Newsstand, has never made a comic book. And the difference is between people that actually make a comic book and fucking spectators is people that made a comic book and tried to submit their work to companies and publishers and tried to get work, even if it's just freelance work, whatever the case may be. We know the struggle. We know those rejection letters. Hell, Jim Valentino sent me a good old rejection letter years ago when I tried to submit to Shadowline. Action Labs sent me a rejection letter to Tainted Love, which was later picked up by Antarctic. Ooh, excuse me. Action Labs sent me a nice little rejection letter when I submitted my book Tainted Love to them. It later got picked up by Antarctic Press, and it sold what it sold. Everyone walked away happy. Now you see where Action Lab is. They're not exactly happy these days. But Chapter 11 bankruptcy, I can see them doing it. That way they can protect themselves legally and just restructure, come out new. We've seen it happen many times in this industry. Somebody asked me, do you have to be gay or queer or whatever the case may be to get a job at Marvel in 2022? Maybe. I don't know. I'm not in those offices. I'm not in that room. I'm not in that room to say. And people point this out based off like maybe one or two people being hired. So they make it seem like everyone in Marvel is gay or queer or whatever the case may be. I'm like, people, get real. Get real. Like, who's going around with this gaydar and why and cares? Like, I never got why people care. It doesn't matter to me. I don't know, man. I don't know. Gunwork. I don't even remember buying this. Guerrilla Publishing. They did a Kickstarter on this. Did I read it? I don't think I even read this. It'll get read. Reprint. Get read. No actual comic books are being harmed during the making of this video. It's crazy. Tomorrow I'm gonna do a live stream with Sun God tomorrow from behind the scenes. We're gonna talk about blurs. I've never been a fan of that word blurred, which is, for those of you that don't know, it's like a black nerd. But we're gonna talk about that because you spend like 5 to 10 minutes explaining what the hell a blurred is, and people still look at you confused. They're like, what? I still don't get it. You're like, it's a black nerd. They're like, what's a black nerd? And then you're like, it's a nerd, but they're black. Shocking, right? And they still look at you confused. So I've never really been a fan of that term. I do understand why some people want to call themselves that. They want to create their own little identity within this industry, which is often a very hard thing to do. Raymond Leonard, he sent me a video clip earlier, and basically it was saying, the video clip, the creators were saying that all of these black characters that black people love and promote, they were all created by white men. I was like, this is funny. It's funny because how many people can name characters of color that were created by people of color? Take out the milestone characters, besides them and Brother Man. How many people can really name characters of color that were created by people of color? I'll wait. If you get past 5, I'm going to send you something special. If you get past 5, and it can't be a character that no one's heard of. It has to be a character that people have actually heard of. This is back when the X-Men was a good comic. It still amazes me that Marvel has been paying Chris Claremont for what, 15 years or whatever, not to write? It's just crazy. Pay me not to write. I'm depressed. My depression's like here. I haven't been able to write, and I know I retired from comics, but I've been sitting on this concept, this story for a while. It's not a superhero comic, so people that have read Lady Freedom or Agent Solo or Black Villains Wanted or Tainted Love or God Cell, any things that I wrote, this is totally different. This is a Buffy the Vampire-ish supernatural story that needs to be told. It needs to be told. Hopefully, I can get this book out. I guess this is an announcement. I'm not even going to tell you the name because I want to get it out in the fall. Once the book is fully done and complete, I'm going to be like, here you go. That's what I'm going to do. That's the plan. It's about a necromancer. That's all I'm saying. It's about a necromancer. Why do people... Oh, that one kind of looked dope. I was like, why do people give you trading cards with their Kickstarters? Like, I don't know what to do with them. I just throw, like, trading cards, bookmarks, and it's always weird when people do a Kickstarter, they give you a bookmark. I'm like, it's not a graphic novel. Who's going to put a bookmark in here? Like, that shouldn't be a thing. But all that little swag, it just goes in a drawer, never to be seen again. Remember old school Iron Man? Back when, you know, he wasn't like this futurist Marvel version of Batman that can do anything, kick anybody's ass. I don't know. But do you think gatekeeping is real? Like, who has stopped you from creating comics? That's what I want to know. When people say gatekeeping, I want to know who is stopping someone from creating a comic book? You write a story, you hire an artist, you hire a colorist or letters or whatever the case may be, you get it printed, you figure out a way to get it out to the masses, whether it's setting up an online store, setting up Amazon shop, going out to different retailers, selling that product. Who is stopping people from doing that? So when they say gatekeepers, yeah, at companies, they're going to have a certain standard. Like, hey, we're not going to let anyone publish with us. No, that's not going to happen. It's egos that are involved because people can't handle rejection. Some people can't handle rejection. Not everybody. But Todd McFarlane, he'll tell you, I got told no more than I was told yes when he first started his career. People are like, no, you're not good enough. Your artwork's not ready. You need to work on storyboarding. You need to work on character design. You need to work on your pacing. These are things that a good editor will tell someone from an artistic standpoint. You need to work on your perspective. Now, do I have friends that draw shitty? Yes. Do I draw shitty? Yeah, I've been known to draw shitty, but I've also been known to draw greatness based off the feedback I received from my shitty drawings. I can draw a mean stick figure. A mean one. Now, this brings us back to my original point. People like Tristan from Nerdist Newsstand and Comics by Perch, they're outsiders looking in. They're outsiders looking in. But any creator will tell you, it's hard out there to make a living creating comics with or without the fucking gatekeepers, because no one's stopping you from making a comic book. All you have to do is just have the finances and get the team in place. Sometimes people will flake out. They'll flake out big time. You're like, I paid you already. And I tell people, Stop paying people you never worked with up front. Like, don't. No. It's bad. Don't do it. There are a lot of people that are scammers. Remember when I said about Marvel has been hiring all these artists that you can't pronounce their names? They're from overseas somewhere. They even get scammed. People will take your money and run, or they'll start a few pages and then disappear and ghost you. You can't ghost by nerds, son? What's up with that? What's up with that? But it happens. Happens every day. It happens every day. Which is crazy that it happens so much and so frequently that so-called artists will ghost a writer, will ghost a publisher because you paid them ahead of time, or you make an arrangement, they do a few pages, and you're like, okay, I'll pay you the rest on Friday. Just turn in the final designs or pages by Thursday. Never to be heard from again. They took that initial pay up front, get the rest later, and they just ran with it. Not only with you, but 5 or 6 other people who they were like, oh, I only accept payment half up front, half when you're done. Now they got all that upfront money and gone. They're gone. Get gone, love, and don't live anymore. I used to love that song. But my chat nerds, I do love y'all. Like, y'all are family. Y'all are the reason why I keep creating these videos, because a lot of times I rely on y'all information, your research and knowledge base to, correct me if I'm wrong about something, because I never want to be right. I don't go around saying, this is the most educated YouTube show in existence. That's stupid. Stupid. The narratives that people put into play and put out there into the universe never ceases to amaze me. Never ceases to amaze me. But have I experienced, outside of, the conventions that I mentioned of, have I experienced direct racism in this industry? Yeah. But it wasn't by a company. It was by creators that they didn't like what I was doing on this channel. They wanted to cancel my black ass because they did not like the way I reviewed some books. If I say something's dope, it's dope as fuck. I'm going to tell you what's dope about it. If I say something's trash, I'm going to tell you what makes this book trash and how they can make it untrashy. How can they make it untrashy? They didn't like that. Some people cannot handle critiques. They can't. They can't do it. But in order to grow, you cannot have the Kanye West syndrome and think everything you do is just rainbows and peach fuzz. Rainbows, what the hell did I come up with that? You have to be open to critique. You have to be open to feedback. You can't grow if you think you're already Super Saiyan Blue. No, you're just a regular Saiyan doing regular Saiyan shit. You ain't at that power level, son. Not at that power level. I've always hated the word comic book pro. When people say, oh, I'm a comic book pro. I'm a comic book pro artist or comic book pro artist, if I say wrestler. But the reason I hate that term is because if I'm at a convention, Neil Adams can be here, Steve Rude can be here. They're my fucking competition. They're the ops. We're all trying to get the same consumers to buy our products. Fucking ops. Fucking ops. Yes, there is a community, but when it comes to selling and we're all at the same con, everybody's my ops. I'm your ops. I'm their ops. I'm his ops. Because we're all going for the same dollar share. We're all trying to cater to the same fan base. That's what I try to get people to understand. It's like, The comic book industry, people that actively buy comic books on a regular basis, it's not a huge number. We're all competing, whether our books are in the store, whether our books are on Indiegogo, Kickstarter, at a convention, we're all competing for the same consumer base. All about that base. All about that base. We're all competing for the same dollar. Whether Jim Lee gets that, or Steve Root, or I get that dollar. And granted, they have huge fan bases. But on any given Sunday, your boy Arthur, he might get a touchdown and get that dollar. Competition. They are the ops. I'm their ops. Even if I'm your friend, I'm still your ops. You're my ops. Because we go to that convention, yeah, I might be like, hey, you like my book? After I got the purchase, of course. Check out my boy over there. You ought to go visit him. He got some good stuff. Friendly competition. Friendly competition. But I want the dollar first. Or $10 or $100, whatever the case may be. I want the money first. It's hard. Even doing this live stream, because as I said a couple times already, my depression and my ability to create content right now isn't where it should be, because I'm mentally, and some people are like, oh, you shouldn't talk about that on your stream and stuff like that, but it's important when you're going through things to talk about it, because if you don't talk about it, you're going to internalize it, you're going to make it worse. So if I'm repeating myself in regards to, my clinical depression, is because I'm dealing with it in real time. When people do live streams, they're reacting to things in real time, because this is real life. This is what we do for a living. It's what we do. And sometimes you have to rally the troops around you in order to continue doing what you do. In order to continue. Gatekeeping to me comes in the form of these whisper networks where people are all in their DMs. They're like, hey, have you heard what Kevin did? Yeah, we should cancel Kevin. Yeah, oh, and he's probably Comicsgate, by the way, so we're going to super cancel him. And he has a pet cat. Men who have cats are weirdos. Spread the word. Whisper network out. People do that shit. People do that shit. My ex used to tell me that men gossip more than women. And I always picture these, and I hate to say it, there are a lot of, overweight people in this industry. Hell, I need to knock off about 20 pounds. But I always picture this big fat geek laying on his stomach with his legs up in the air, flopping them on his phone, like, yeah, we need to get rid of Kevin right now. Not the prettiest sight when you walk in the room and you see this big guy with his legs flopping in the air and he's on his phone with a little evil grin, in his little whisper network talking about counseling somebody. Sad part about it, that's a true story. It's happened. But these whisper networks, I think, in large part because they work overtime to tell other people not to work with so-and-so. Not to work with so-and-so. And I think that's a sad thing that people do. I think it's very unprofessional. Very unprofessional. Even when people ask me, hey, you work with this artist, how much do you charge? I'm not telling you that. I will tell you need to contact so-and-so and find out their prices, because what they charge me may not be what they charge you. It's as simple as that. But the whisper networks, they will literally tell people, don't work with this person. And it don't even have to be, oh, they're Comicsgate. It can be, oh, don't work with this person because they're a scammer. They cheat people. Do you have proof of this alleged cheating? No. But take my word for it, because I'm your friend. You can trust me. It's crazy. Shane Morrison, he's an indie creator. I have one of his books. That's not it. Anyway, Shane Morrison, he recently announced that, right now financially, creating comic books ain't something that he can continue to do right now. He can't afford it. I salute him. I salute him for that. I forgot I got this. Ruining Christmas should be a cartoon. Stranger Comics make that happen. I salute him for that. I quit writing comics for a while that I had to financially support for many of the same reasons. Because when you have a family or you've been a responsible adult, not one of these guys that's just living off his wife that works at the dollar store, sometimes you don't have the finances to invest in your pet project. And for many people, comic books are a pet project. So when he announced this, I remember a conversation I had with Chuck Pena, who was the editor of a few of his projects, Shane's projects. And this is that Whisper Network. He's like, oh, Shane's a shitty writer and all this and that. And I'm just like, dude, I read your book. How are you going to call Shane a shitty writer and you wrote this? It is what it is. But I do wish Shane a lot of luck. I hate to see a creator have to quit for whatever time period creating, because it is an addiction, creating characters and worlds, whether it's a comic book, an audio book, a novel, a screenplay. It's an addiction that a lot of us can't help if we're really creators. We can't help but to create something. It's just in our blood. I talked to Raymond Leonard. He's like a brother to me. And he's always creating new characters and books. He's like, man, got like 3 in the pipeline waiting to release. I'm like, Agent Solo? He's like, oh, 3 new books. You haven't seen these. It's the new shit. Can I see it? Not yet. You're my brother, but not yet. And I get tickled by this because I love that spirit that, one, I tell him all the time, you're my ops. I aim to create better than you. Your aim should be to create better than me. Not only create better, but to get more sales. Because the more revenue you generate, the more you can release these other projects, or you can fund these other projects, because now you have the capital to do so. Not only that, but you can move your IP in different directions, whether make it a book, an audio play, whatever the case may be, and maximize your revenue streams. Don't just rely on it just being a comic book. You can make it a cartoon. You can fund your own independent movie. Whatever the hell you want to do with your IP, open that can of whoop ass on the world and create. It's a beautiful thing. Beautiful thing. Yeah. Gatekeepers, it's these damn whisper networks. It's these grown ass men in each other's DMs. Like, Rihanna's right there. And you rather DM a grown ass man with a beard instead of DMing Rihanna and all her goddessness and curves and beautiful Barbados glory. I've been DMing Rihanna for like 5 years. 5 years. Still no reply back. Maybe I should stop. Why did I mention Rihanna and DMing her for 5 years, she asked. It's a great segue. Great segue for something else that's been on my mind. I really haven't been DMing Rihanna for 5 years. Maybe 1 year, not 5. A lot of comic book fans and podcasters and influencers have parasocial relationships with these fictional characters. That's why you got people like Young Ripper, who legit seems butthurt by the direction that Marvel has been going, because he in his words, loves these characters and hates, hates seeing what's been going on with some of them. That's a parasocial relationship because you're never going to get that love back. It's like people fall in love with Drew Barrymore because she looks like an everyday girl. Like you feel you have a chance with her versus Scarlett Johansson. And even her, people develop these relationships and care and love about either these celebrities or these fictional characters. Like, you know how many guys have whacked off to Psylocke when Jim Lee put her in that bathing suit? Tons. Tons. You're never going to get that love back. And I've even seen it happen with this little small channel here, which in the YouTube algorithm ain't shit. It's not even at 1% of what the algorithm will really pick up. But I have people have developed that parasocial relationship with me to a degree. So when I see people, fans or influencers like Young Ripper, develop these parasocial relationships with these fictional characters, it's kind of interesting. It's kind of interesting from a philosophical standpoint because they're always going to be hurt. They're always going to be hurt because they can't control those characters. They can't control those IPs. They can't control what happens with their favorite superheroes. They can't control it. What happens when you can't control something you want to control? Depression, anger, resentment, all that stuff that makes the dark side of YouTube possible. Tommy Sotomayor is still running around talking about he hates women. How many years has it been? How many years has it been? What's that dude name? Kevin Samuels. He doesn't go around saying he hates women, but he goes around and has made a lucrative career telling women that they're shit, they're trash, and that they're not going to be able to get a man unless they look a certain way and don't have any kids. Just saying. He's made a lot of money on that. Ernie from The Blurred Without Fear. His whole thing, I just read what I like. He does videos about stuff that he likes. He doesn't want to spend time talking about stuff he doesn't like. Me, I have the time to read stuff that I think is dope or think it's trash. Because I don't know it's trash until I read it. If I read it and I think it's trash, that reminds me, I'm going to release a video this weekend on Carlos Raphael's new Remarkables. No relation to the trash comment, but we'll see. I'm going to do a video. It's either going to be dope or it's going to be trash. I'm either going to say bag it or trash it. It's going to be the segment. Bag it or trash it. And it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. I need some alcohol. Y'all think what I think? Y'all think we should do shots? We should do shots on live stream. Hold up. Get some alcohol. Yeah, we're gonna do some shots. Why not? It's Friday. That's what we do for it, right? It's like, y'all got y'all shots? I'm a chat nerd. You got your shots? Cheers to all of you. Like, I appreciate y'all. Mm. 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 That's good. That's good. Woo. That's good. I don't want to live in a world that doesn't have vodka. Just saying. Just saying. Vodka and tacos. Tacos without cheese. Everybody that knows me knows that I do not believe that you should put cheese on tacos. It's not a real taco. It's propaganda, probably some capitalistic propaganda made up by the cheese companies, big cheese. It just don't belong there. Do not put cheese on a taco. Thank me later. That's all I'm saying. Big cheese is really trying to get you to put cheese on everything. That's what big cheese does. One of the hardest parts about being an independent creator and making comic books is it's a struggle. Not even just financially, but sometimes you create something and you have that finished product in your hands and you can't sell it. And it breaks your heart because you love this pet project, you love this book, and you're at a convention or you have an online store and nobody's buying it. Nobody's buying it. I have a friend right now. He's running a what do you call that? Indiegogo campaign right now, and he said he's sad, not about his campaign, but he's sad that people will like the campaign on Facebook. They'll send it likes, but they won't share it or back it. And I have to explain to him the way social media works. Like, people can think something is dope AF, but it doesn't mean they're gonna buy that thing that they think is dope. They just admire it. They think it's pretty, it's shiny, and it's kind of how social media works to a degree when it comes to just liking stuff versus, I share my videos all the time. Some people would just comment on the video and never base out the topic, but never actually watch said video. Like, that's, people do that. And I don't hold nothing against people that do that. I mean, we all do it. We all like things and we have no interest in sharing it or clicking on the article or video or campaign, whatever the case may be. It's just, we just like it. That's the way we show support. It is what it is. Oh, y'all want to do shots again? Okay. We're going to do shots again. My chat nerds, thank y'all for being up with me this Friday night. Let me know when y'all ready, because I don't think all y'all got y'all shots in. You over there, you didn't do a shot. The rest of us did shots. You did not do a shot. I saw you. I seen you. Ready? You got to do a shot proper, right? You say cheers, table, then mouth. Woo! What are we talking about? Then we're talking about, gatekeepers. It's the only real experience I had with gatekeepers is these whisper networks and these grown-ass men in each other's DMs. I remember one while people were saying I was coming gate. I was like, I am? When did this happen? I don't care. I said this a lot. I don't care if people are SJWs, comment gate. I'm gonna make fun of each of you the same if I make fun of you, but it's not something that's on my direct radar because I'm focused on me and what I'm creating. Focus on me and what I'm creating. And that's what I hope people that are creators, they would stop worrying about the next man or next woman, the next non-binary being with a beanie is doing. Focus on you. Do you. And you're not worried about the ops. Because you're focused too much on what everybody else is doing. Who's overseeing your shit, making sure it's the best? Nobody. Sometimes people are comfortable and more than comfortable with just being mediocre. Not my words. Not my words, but you see it. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't even have to say it in a lot of cases. We sees it. We see this. I don't know, it's crazy. Like, when you create something, you have that book in your hand. And I say you're at a convention. You finally were able to create your first comic book. You're happy, you're proud, you're telling yourself bravo, you're looking at all the pages over and over again, you're excited. You have your baby in your hand. And you're holding your little comic book baby just so, and you go to your first convention and you just sit there. And you sit there. And you sit there. And you keep looking at your watch, you keep looking at your phone. You start playing fucking Rocket League or League of Legends on your phone, and you had that first person come up to your table. And they just look. They look at you and they look at your books. They look at you and look at your books. And then they say, do you know where the bathroom is? Because I really need to pee. And you're like, bathroom's over there to the left. Okay. Bye. And they're gone. And you leave that day and you haven't sold anything. Meanwhile, you spent $5,000 to make this book. And so you go back because it's a 3-day convention. You're like, Saturday will be better. That's what you tell yourself. And you go there and you sit. You eat some chips. You might eat some tacos with no cheese. You sit and you sit. And when you leave, you've sold 4 books. You're like, well, that's a start. Sunday rolls around. You're at the convention. Barely anybody there. Creators are coming up to you like, hey, I'm a local creator too. You want to swipe books? And you're like, yeah, here you go. You give them their copy of your book. They give you theirs. Yeah. Back. Fooled you, didn't I? So you swipe out issues and you might sell 2 or 3 more. And you go home defeated. Your girl is asking you, well, how did you do it at the con? And you're like, oh, I sold out. Yeah, you sold out because you only brought like 9 or 10 copies of your book and you sold them all. Or you sold out with what was on the table. Meanwhile, you have this box of 50 issues sitting there behind the table, but you don't want to tell your girl about that. You sold out with the ones you had on the table. That's always funny when people say, I sold out. And I'm like, well, how many issues did you take? But it's very demotivating when you do spend months creating a comic. And I can go for a hamburger right now. Hamburgers sound good, right? You spend months working on a comic and you only sell a few issues. And you went to the biggest con in the world. And you spent $400 or $500 on a table. You spent, I say, $80 a night at the hotel, Uber fees, food, all this. And you walked away and you only sold a very small selection of books. You are in the red. In the red. How do you rebound from that? Every creator has been through that same scenario. Some have, you know what, I'm going to go to 2 more conventions and see how this works. And if nothing works, I'm just done with it. And they do it. Might do about the same, might sell a little better, but after a while, they're like, why am I doing this to myself? Why am I doing this to myself? Why am I doing this to my money? Why? That pet project ain't looking so good anymore, son. It's not. Why are we doing this to ourselves? It's a very hard realization in life when you work so hard at something. It doesn't have to be a comic book. It could be a movie. It can be a CD, whatever the case may be. but you create it expecting the world to love it, expecting the world to love it. And people look at it like, yeah, it's all right. It's all right. They say it's the best thing they ever read. How many of them putting that money in your hand? Not that many. Not that many. I don't know. That's the kind of thing that people don't talk about. They don't talk about how to rebound when you cannot sell your product. Because you're going to start thinking, oh, it's not good enough. Yeah, what's up? Oh, doing a live stream on my YouTube channel. What you up to?
I've been on my way home from the comedy show.
Comedy show? Was it good?
Yeah, it was entertaining. Mm-hmm.
Did you have a date?
Yeah, I went with Nelly.
Nelly. You gotta show me a picture. You gotta show me a picture of her. How do you not have a picture of your friend?
I mean, I do have a picture of my friend, but not to send.
All right.
I guess I can send you the picture we took today.
All right. Hold that thought. I'm gonna end this live stream. All right, y'all. But these are just some thoughts on gatekeeping. I'll see y'all tomorrow. I'm gonna try. My goal tomorrow is to post 3 new videos. So look out for this new content. It's coming soon. Sorry it's been 2 weeks. Been away from y'all. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Do a few more shots for me. I'm Andy Comic Book Guy. I'm out.